I'm Brock Carlisle, a pastor and a licensed counselor, and this is Whiteboard Wednesday. The Bible tells us to not let the sun go down while we are still angry. Turns out resolving conflict is a really good thing. Today, I'm going to tell you why. So if we have two people in relationship with each other, the goal is to have nothing in between them that creates division or separation. When there is conflict, then there is something that divides, something that separates them. And if the conflict is never resolved, then this issue remains. What happens if it is never resolved is that the next time there's conflict, we wind up not only fighting about this, but the original conflict also gets brought back up. This is how we start off fighting about one thing, but in the fight about something completely different. That's a big signal that we have unresolved conflict. What will eventually happen if this is the pattern followed is we have a giant wedge of separation that is formed by the weight of all of the unresolved conflict. So this is what we don't want to have happen. Ideally, what we would have is, is when conflict happens, we work on that conflict and resolve it. And then the next time conflict happens, we can work on that conflict and resolve it. Every time conflict gets resolved, it preserves what we're trying for, the goal of relationship, which is to have nothing that separates or divides. So how do we accomplish this? Well, there's two things that I'd like you to try. The first one is remain focused on one issue at a time. When it is revealed that there is unresolved conflict, we need to acknowledge that and schedule a time to circle back around to it, because you can only solve one thing at a time. The second thing that we can do is we can seek to gain knowledge rather than just problem solve. If you just problem solve, you're going to wind up fighting the same fight over and over and over, the same argument over and over and over. But when you gain knowledge of the other person, the knowledge that lets you know why what you're doing impacts them and how it makes them feel, then you're not going to desire to make them feel that way anymore. And that is what brings about a permanent and lasting solution. Our relationships matter, and we should be willing to fight to preserve them. And resolving conflict is one of the ways that we can.